Good afternoon on what is a cool and cloudy day. It is Wednesday, the 25th of August. I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and some parcels. But what I'm going to start with is this. This is Descent, Legends of the Dark. It is the third edition of the fantasy, basically dungeoneering board game published by Fantasy Flight Games, which originally was the fantasy development out of the first Dune board game, and those mechanics from Fantasy Flight would then go on to see iterations in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition, Star Wars, the Star Wars line of role-playing games, and of course Genesis in their different different iterations and different variations. So this big square of a box, okay, it looks bigger and heavier than it is. It's a foot square. The interesting thing is that it's designed to fit into one slot of a Kallax bookshelf from IKEA. So which is about 13 inches square because I've measured it for my own bookshelves, and this will just slot into it. So your legend begins. The realm's oldest enemy has returned, and the stage is set for the next great confrontation between Terrinoth and the forces of darkness in Descent Legends of the Dark, the definitive dungeon crawling board game for 1 to 4 players, so you can play this solo. With a fully integrated companion app as your guide, you're invited to embark on the first part of a campaign that stretches across the enchanted land, exploring dark forests, ancient battlegrounds, as you confront the undead lurking beneath a veil of mists, demonic barbarians stalking the wilds, and more. Throughout these trials, you will develop your skills to meet greater challenges, craft new weapons and armour to aid you, and gain power that will stretch beyond this box into future adventures. Terrinoth is in peril. Forge your own legends in Descent Legends of the Dark. So this is what you get on the back, and this really kind of showcases, and I'm literally having to support this on my shoulder. So if you look closely, you've got terrain, basically like that, trees, furniture, basically fittings, miniatures, basically the adventurers, and then the villains, and then this cardboard train. And this is all in cardboard. And I got a chance to look at this at UK Games Expo and went, oh my god, that looks amazing. It's really kind of doing everything that you kind of want a dungeon bashing board game to do in terms of look, and it's reminiscent essentially of the old school board game from the 90s, Hero Quest from MB Games and Games Workshop, and unfortunately it does have the same price kind of amount. This is not a cheap game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's essentially the equivalent of buying another copy of Gloom. It's a Gloom killer for Fantasy Flight Games. So yeah, that's what you get. It's all in there. And although this box is quite large, it doesn't actually, it's heavy enough, it doesn't weigh as much as you think, which I will get into in a minute, as soon as I've opened up the box. So, taking the knife, slide into the plastic. There we go, it's now open. And taking off the quite deep lid, the first thing you see is that. I'm just going to hold it like that so you can see. I don't want to drop anything because I keep doing that every time I do one of these unboxings. So, complete guide to learn how to play. Full colour booklet, it gives you an overview, rule structure, assembly, discusses the app, and shows you what everything is in there. So there we are, that's everything in the game. And then you've got a quick reference on the back. and then gives you the rules for how to set up, fundamental concepts behind the games, because you're using, you're combining a case of, you've got weapon cards, armor cards, miniatures, the enemy cards as well, that sort of thing. Those are the heroes, sorry. And then cards for the enemy, how to set up. And of course you'll also need a mobile phone or a tablet, which you can play the app, how to play a quest. Examples of the play, so we've got basically how to attack. And then we've got basically guide to the law, that's much thinner, but you've got a nice little map on the back. Essentially explanation of the world, its background, and what's going on, who the various peoples of Terrinoth are. Dwarves, elves, cat folk, dragon hybrids. So you can kind of see what they're going for, because you think, elves, dwarves, fantasy, and then cat folk and dragon hybrids. You're thinking, basically, the dragon folk from D&D, and the cat folk, the tabaxi. I mean, not exactly the same, but essentially that kind of thing. And then we have a guide to how to put everything together, which, to be fair, is always useful. So you've got a complete guide to putting the furniture and bits and pieces together. And the realms of Terrinoth, continue your adventures and explain. Okay, and a bit of advertising with the realms of Terrinoth setting for the Genesis system role-playing game. And then below that we have miniatures. Basically, you're not going to see those very well, but you've got tray upon tray, and unlike the earlier iterations of this game, they actually come with something that you can store them in. So there we go. Complete trays, you can put those away, get them out again. So you've got those. And below that, you've got a bigger piece which you can put together, take apart, presumably for ease of storage. So then a big wodge of thick cardboard. Now this is essentially what all the train is made from. It's all die cut, you break it out, you put it together, you have the train. So this provides a bit of preparation and setup even before you play. Not just in case I'm going to set up a scenario, but essentially you've got to prepare to play. Nice touch. Descent sleeves pack. That's absolutely fantastic. I mean, the thing is, the amount of money you're paying for this, it's almost, you're kind of going, if this wasn't in there, you're kind of going, I've got to pay extra to sleeve all my cards. No, that's a great touch. Thank you very much. And then you have the packs of cards, and okay, they're loose, but the thing is, they come in Ziploc bags. They're already pre-prepared. I don't have to basically unwrap them, sort them all out, put them into a little Ziploc bag. It's done for me. So what we've got there is a mutation potion, and then basically you've got a rune of blades, a bit of magic or something like that. Plastic tokens, again pre-bagged. The dice, and you've got D8s, D12s, D6s there, with pluses and stars and lightning bolts on for various effects. And one of the things that you see in these iterations of these games is the use of different symbols on the dice rather than numbers, and that's been prevalent throughout the whole of the line. And again, more cards. There's a reference card there with a description of the hero title, and then actions on the back. And that kind of harkens back to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where all of the characters' actions could be basically handled on a card, and the card had the full rules for them. And actually, whatever you think of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, that made actually having that reference to hand really useful. If you're playing a character, okay, I need to cast a spell, instead of leafing through the book, you pick up your cards, leaf through them, and you've got it ready in front of you if you want, and you've got standard actions, and then you've got actions which are key to particular classes. So, for example, I was playing a grey wizard, and I was exposed to the warp, and at a certain point I had to buy an action card, and it was something like Fearful Stare or something like that, and I chose, I'm going to take that. And I said, basically, because I've stared into the warp has stared into me, and I can stare back, basically some of that terror I can impart through my stare. And I had that as part of my arsenal. And not once did it ever work, but it added to the character, even the failure. And equipment, so dust plate, mud potion, and then we get to the character cards. These are quite large, so we've got health on there, movement, and then the stats down the side, so might, agility and insight, and a particular ability as well, and presumably you get other abilities which sort of plug into that as well. So then you get to the bottom of the box. Okay, and I show you that, and there's a couple of sort of flappy bits. What are the flappy bits for? Because they're not doing anything. So you pull those up. Okay, but there's nothing underneath there. Okay, or basically you can use the slots down the side of those to store. But okay, let's keep pulling that. Push that up. Okay, the middle bit of the box comes up. So it's in three parts. You've got three lids in effect. And then what you've got underneath that is this. It's an empty space. Now, in traditional board games, you would think, okay, well, what's that for? Why have you given me a box with, essentially, the bottom half of the box is empty? It's simple. Storage. It's not room for expansions. It's not, anything like that. It's room for storage. Because essentially, what are you going to do with all of the furniture and the terrain you've put together? You need somewhere to store it. And in a lot of cases, when you buy a board game like that, there's not enough room in the box itself to store it properly without deconstructing it. And this is the solution. So yes, you've got a bigger box, you've got an emptier box, but you're going to fill it up with terrain once you start playing. So that's an impressive idea. All right, you're buying a box that's half empty, but you're going to fill it anyway. So let's put this back on. This is Descent, Legends of the Dark. I'm looking forward to bringing this to the table, because essentially the one thing I know is that, okay, if I get myself a Saturday afternoon, I can sit there and play this by myself and experience what it's like with the app going, and I can enjoy that. And the great thing about that is that essentially I can get a play experience out of this box set, quite an expensive box set I have to say, as much as I would with other players. So I'm just putting this all back in. And then that will enable me to give it a good review. So obviously during the pandemic, it's been very difficult to play board games of late. So, Descent, Legends of the Dark from Fantasy Flight Games. I look forward to getting a Saturday afternoon free to give that a try. In the meantime, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please click the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I look forward to reading those, and I appreciate you taking the time to post those too. Lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me with some parcels and something I can unbox and talk about for roughly 10 minutes of my time, to the best extent of my knowledge, whilst drinking a nice hot cup of tea, please hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, thank you again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I'll be back again soon. Bye for now.